right, in studio for the next 45 minutes or so. Then we'll get back into all the world news, DNC, you name it. Is Dr. Peter McCullough. He doesn't need any introduction. One of the top, most published researchers and doctors out there. You can find all his great work at onlinehealthnow.com, onlinehealthnow.com, one word. He's in studio with us, and he is, again, one of the leading voices out exposing all of this. There's a bunch of prestigious studies that have now come out directly, what he's been saying for years, correlating that it's not the COVID infection causing this explosion of myocarditis and other heart issues. It is the shots, and there's been a lot of other things happening with the UN declaring a new emergency right when their old emergency was set to expire that week. This has happened, as you know, a few weeks ago. We also have the monkeypox hysteria. We also have the bird flu hysteria. We have the system really trying to bring this back. We have Peter Hotez and members of Congress and members of NATO, and Eric Schmidt, formerly of Google, now running combat robot programs for the Pentagon, saying we need to use NATO and the military against people. I mean, they're saying this. I remember old timers when I first got on air 30-something years ago going, the UN's going to come one day. Well, they're not going to come in helmets. I said they're going to come as bureaucrats, but actually now they're talking about troops themselves. Dr. Ryan, the head of the global UN emergency response, has called, of course, for sending military out. So Dr. Peter McCullough, we now have a 35,000-foot view 4.5 years into this. You've been speaking out day one about what's really going on. Can you give us your 35,000-foot view on what is really going on here and then drill into all the new developments that only vindicate everything you've been saying?
Boy, it goes back to 2005. The PrEP Act, written by HHS and Congress, said there will be a pandemic one after another, and that's exactly what's happened. Every single one of these outbreaks now looks like it's gain-of-function research. Human agency was involved in the creation of these pathogens, getting people sick, and then the same individuals and same groups that have been behind this form of gain-of-function research are actually pushing vaccines as the singular answer for each one of these health crises. We now have, I think, compelling data that SARS-CoV-2, through all of the investigations in Washington by the House Select Subcommittee led by Brad Wenstrup, Ohio representative, are conclusive that SARS-CoV-2, the chimeric virus, was a creation by a U.S.-Chinese collaboration led by Dr. Ralph Barrick at UNC Chapel Hill, Dr. Peter Daszak at the EcoHealth Alliance, now barred from government research, and retired NIAID director Anthony Fauci with the bat lady Xingling Li in Wuhan. They created SARS-CoV-2. This was published and memorialized in a 2015 paper in Nature Medicine, 2016 paper in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Now, enter in monkeypox. That was the next U.S. public health emergency declared by Biden and HHS Secretary Becerra in 2022. Now going back, it looks like 2003 records indicate, and this is on our Courageous Discourse Substack and McCullough Foundation website, that Fauci commissioned gain-of-function research in monkeypox to get to the point where it's human-to-human transmission. That's exactly what we saw. Used to be transmitted from monkeys or giant pouch rats, pouch rats in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and then suddenly in 2022, it's spreading in the male, gay, and bisexual community, human-to-human transmission. It looks like now in a paper that we've highlighted on the Courageous Discourse Substack that indeed this is a product of gain-of-function research. Now, WHO, within the last few days, declares an emergency of public health interest for the world in the Democratic Republic of Congo. A next wave of monkeypox, this is now called Clade 1 or single source 1. It's in the sex trades in the Congo. 96% of cases are in the Congo, only 10% are PCR confirmed. There are several hundred deaths out of thousands of cases. Most of the deaths likely to be in those with untreated advanced HIV disease. So this is not of general public concern, clearly not of worldwide concern, but it doesn't stop with monkeypox. We now have compelling data. McCullough Foundation, Nick Holscher Fellow has broken the news that avian influenza, H5N1 influenza, clade 2, 3, 4, 4, 6, is indeed a product of gain-of-function research coming out of the USDA Poultry Research Center in Athens, Georgia, in collaboration with the University of Wisconsin School of Veterinary Medicine, Erasmus University in the Netherlands. They collaborated to get bird flu to extend its host range into migratory waterfowl. That's how it's spreading from farm to farm by mallard ducks and similar birds, as well as into mammals. But as a consequence of extending its host range, it's a far more mild infection. This is very breaking news. Avian influenza is a very mild illness right now. No large numbers of animal deaths, mild cases of human disease, nothing more than pink eye. Clearly, avian influenza is not a public health emergency. It's not a global health emergency. And Alex, there's no need to vaccinate against either monkeypox or bird flu.
Now, you always give out the science, but just for lay people out there, we had Dr. Wolfgang Woodard, we had many other top scientists like Dr. Michael Yeadon coming out before they even released it in October, November, and December of 2020, saying it's going to cause myocarditis, it's going to cause infertility, it's going to cause strokes, it's going to cause blood clots. You had the FDA putting out a list of probable adverse reactions, listing dozens more, but all those as well. So what is that about? And then you began to come out and warn as well. And then we saw that indeed. So if you knew it and all these other people knew it, and the FDA would actually put this out on their website and a PowerPoint presentation, what do you think the point is of that with the system? And then now these new studies proving indeed that that is the case. I mean, you look at this, it looks completely premeditated. We now know since 45, and starting in Michigan, they put hydrofluorosilicic acid in the water. That was rat poison or bug poison. Doesn't strengthen your teeth. My dad's a dentist, he'll tell you that. And now we know it's lowered IQ massively. I mean, look, just as a citizen, just as a person that lives here in America, this is completely obvious. A program of sterilization and dumbing down for control, in my view, just like ancient societies wouldn't let the slaves learn how to read and write. Well, this is just an extension of that. How do you dumb down a population that knows how to read and write and that's too uppity? You poison them and then connect them to a medical system that wasn't really corrupt at the time, but has become more and more corrupt and captured by Big Pharma.
Public health initiatives have not improved public health. They've actually worsened public health. You cited countless numbers of examples. Now this is brought to us acutely with the dangers of the COVID-19 vaccines. They were telegraphed to us by the National Institutes of Health and the CDC in their slides back in September of 2020 before they're released. Every single side effect, Alex, that they put on that slide, we have seen in massive numbers, causing record injuries, disabilities, and deaths.
So how is it going for Albert Bourla and Pfizer and Moderna and AstraZeneca and all these guys? Because they're coming back with the same tricks, the same fear-mongering, the same attempts to have PCR tests of the cows and chickens. They want everybody wearing hazmat gear the last 6 months that people just refused. I mean, it looks to me like an implosion in confidence, not in your average doctor or nurse or practitioner, but in the people controlling it.
Yeah, the public is clearly rejecting this, Alex. We now have data from the CDC that only 1.6% of Americans are taking COVID shots. We've heard the CDC announce yet another round of boosters in the fall for the JN1 variant in KP2. These variants will be long gone. I think the first card to be called for Bourla, Pfizer, and the other vaccine manufacturer executives will be the state attorney general lawsuits against these companies for violation of deceptive trade practices. First one in Texas here by Ken Paxton, but now Chris Kobach in Kansas, 3 other states. I think this should rapidly spread to every state in the country and spread to all the vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer, Moderna, Janssen, and Novavax.
That's right, because you're the expert, but Reagan in '86, who was a good guy overall, but got fooled in a lot of things, like improving aspartame as well with Rumsfeld that got him to do it. They're given liability protection of the shot itself if it's government mandated, but they're not given protection if there's proven fraud, correct?
That's correct. If fraud and malicious intent are proven, then the liability shields should be lowered. And when they are, the companies then can be directly liable to injuries by individuals. Right now, the lawsuits have been focused on the entities that forced the vaccines or mandated the vaccines. And Alex, it's not just a mandate. If a company substantially encouraged COVID-19 vaccination and there's an injury, now lawsuits are coming forward against the companies that encouraged the shots.
Absolutely incredible. I could ask you 1,000 questions, but just in general, so much news has unfolded. What do you want to hit next? Then I want you to give us your expert view on monkeypox, bird flu, and where you see this going.
We know from a case that landed in Dallas in 2022 that monkeypox does not spread very readily at all by casual contact. So the first thing people ask me is, should I be afraid of monkeypox? For the average American, monkeypox is of no concern whatsoever. This man traveled from the Congo. He was not gay or homosexual. He come in contact with animals there. He landed in Atlanta. He saw friends there, flew to Dallas, saw friends there. Someone noticed a rash. He was diagnosed with monkeypox. He was given tecovirimat, the very effective drug to treat monkeypox, and he was fine. The CDC counted every single contact this individual had. Nobody contracted monkeypox. So, Alex, you don't get monkeypox from sitting next to somebody on a plane.
Isn't 99% that's not animal transferred in the deep Congo homosexual sex?
Yes, it's homosexual and gay bisexual sex, but intense sexual contact. The average person in the monkeypox paper in New England Journal of Medicine by Thornhill and colleagues had many sexual partners in a week, Alex. And of those, over 40% had HIV disease. So
even autoimmune compromise.
For sure. And then over 35,000 cases in the United States, the vast majority.
So this is brutal, aggressive sex.
Yes. Over 35,000 cases in the United States so far, almost all male, gay, bisexual individuals. And the vast majority is a mild skin rash. That's it. We've had 58 deaths in the United States, Alex, and of those, the vast majority had untreated advanced HIV.
So that's a comorbidity?
It is basically the signature of someone who could get in trouble with monkeypox. Now, on our Courageous Discourse Substack, anybody over age 52 in the United States has partial protection anyway because they've likely received the smallpox vaccine, as I did. And so smallpox vaccine in a meta-analysis,
lifetime,
39 studies, you have partial protection.
Okay, so then is it obviously what Dr. Malone said a few days ago here in via Skype, that this is simply to get the new UN emergency authorization because their old one was ending?
Yes, this is clearly, I think, perpetrated by those who want continued emergencies. They want to see the flows of funds. Do you know there was a call for new monkeypox vaccines 5 days before the WHO made the worldwide declaration? This is clearly gaming the vaccine industry. We know the Bavarian Nordic Jynneos vaccine for monkeypox is dangerous. It causes myocarditis at high rates, yet another vaccine that will injure the population at risk.
Why? I mean, obviously, I believe, and Bill Gates wants to depopulate, and he wants you to take a shot so you live, and they want to make us infertile. I mean, we obviously know that's the base of it, but how do they think they're going to get away with the Gardasil shot, the HPV shots? All these things just have incredible rates of problems, not just the COVID garbage. And then, like you're saying, I'm seeing reports all the time, mainstream even, of like all these new shots coming out. It's like they're trying to discredit the vaccine industry. I mean, it's like they're trying to destroy themselves, or are they just trying to set the precedent they can do anything they want?
Setting precedent and also setting incredible numbers of vaccines. On one of the Agenda 2030 initiatives, we're talking 500 vaccines per individual. Alex, this is extraordinary. What we know is that no vaccine is sufficiently safe or theoretically effective. Remember, if you don't come in contact with the disease, it doesn't matter if you've had the vaccine or not. Now that a water supply is
clean. Yeah, why are we giving babies hepatitis shots at birth when it's intravenous drug users and anal sex?
Right. There's no clinical indication to do that. We know that the water supply is clean now, so polio vaccines become not compelling. The same would be true for diphtheria, pertussis. And the World Council for Health in September of 2023 called for a moratorium of the entire childhood vaccine schedule.
So how would you describe the big pharma big food. It's all the same companies. You know, people that have all the additives in the food, the cigarette companies, it's all one big group of mad scientists that want to addict us and control us. Do you think they realize, because I've seen some of their big talks, they admit everybody hates us now, no one's believing us, we've got to get trust back at Davos, but then they do stuff even worse and they're losing the trust. Where do you see this going?
I see it going to a mass uprising, very similar to what happened at the late 19th century, called the Anti-Vaccination League in the UK. There, people were up in arms over a very dangerous and ineffective primordial smallpox vaccine. People were being injured by this contaminated vaccine, and there was a giant pushback, Alex. What we know is the public will not tolerate this. In large numbers of individuals now and families are pushing back on the vaccines, not taking them or delaying them, being much more selective for their children. We have 5 studies now showing children are healthier if they go natural with no vaccines, provided the child is normal at birth and has a normal infancy.
I want to run through some headlines for you, but before we do that, you've actually been a great sponsor of ours. We never even really promoted, but you guys have the best overall large-scale telemedicine operation run by some really professional people. You guys fired a few years ago. You didn't come here to do this, but I want to do this. Tell people about onlinehealthnow.com. And tell people about the book. Tell people about some of the amazing packs you've got. And people need to get ahead of this if there is something real they release, which is definitely in the cards. We hope it doesn't happen. It's my view people should be stockpiling things, and they should all be also supporting organizations that are doing this important work.
Well, go to onlinehealthnow.com. Go to the bookstore and pick up a copy of my book, Courage to Face COVID-19, Preventing Hospitalizations and Deaths While Battling the Biopharmaceutical Complex. This is the only book, Alex, in this genre of COVID-19 that was banned by Amazon for 12 days.
And that's because people will have a blueprint to not get killed by the corrupt medical systems. And not everybody's corrupt. A lot of people are great, but it gives you a roadmap to, in future operations, to know your rights and to know how to save yourself.
And it gives people insight on who are the perpetrators, Alex, and what are the crimes, which are fraud and mass negligent homicide. Now that leads right into what should we do about this? We're not just complaining about the state of affairs. We've taken actions into our own hands, created the Wellness Company. The Wellness Company, go to onlinehealthnow.com. That's the portal into the Wellness Company products. The Wellness Company Contagion Kit is the way to protect you and your family against seasonal influenza, avian influenza. COVID-19 has the drugs that are most effective in good supplies: ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, oseltamivir, and budesonide. A terrific value. Couldn't do this at an urgent care.
Oh, when I had COVID and couldn't breathe, and believe me, it was real, folks. I've been around. I'm tough. And I mean, I thought I'd been kicked by a horse for about a week. I got on budesonide, and it would just make me feel great for about 5 hours, and then I ran out of it, and it took me a couple of days to get some, and I was just in torture till I got it. It saved my dad. It is so important.
It just saved a friend of ours in a hotel room in Chicago. She couldn't breathe, had a severe bronchitis. Thankfully, she had the Wellness Company, the broadest of the kits, the broad emergency medical kit that covers various forms of bacterial bronchitis, has an array of antibiotics, also has antiemetics, things that can handle nausea and vomiting.
And society could break down any time. That's their plan. This is way more important, in my view, than just insurance or anything. You've got to, this is just as important as water filtration, firearms, not as important as relationship with God, but when it comes down to that, you have it in packs, it's easily transportable. Everybody should be getting these and giving these as gifts to family that isn't thinking.
These are prescribed to the individual that come with a user guide, telemedicine advice if needed. The medications are safe and effective, proven. Alex, there's a refill program. So once you use a medication in the bottle, take advantage of the refill program. Get a One Wellness membership. That's the top line membership in the Wellness Company. That gives free nutraceuticals, gives access to free generic pharmaceuticals, 800 different generics, and the COVID-19 and emergency medical.
So they go to onlinehealthnow.com. And that's the URL, so InfoWars gets support. You get a great deal, and you're just awesome, and it's wonderful. There's so many amazing things there.
It is. Wellness Company has been a breakthrough. It really is the leader, the vanguard in the patriot economy. There is a pushback to this global takeover of your personal health freedoms. A Wellness Company is your way to break out of it. and it's affordable, 24/7, and puts you in control.
Absolutely. OnlineHealthNow.com. I wanted to do that because we need to help people, and it funds the show because, I mean, I did this when I said that. I wasn't really thinking, you just kind of passed over. But once I figured it out in the middle of COVID, what was the second big one? The Delta? Yeah, that was what really almost killed Rob Dew. And that guy, like, bicycles 30 miles. You know, he's an athlete. You know, had a college scholarship basketball, almost killed him. People are like, oh, it's not real. Oh, let me tell you, I've had the flu, nothing. I've had colds, nothing. I'm tough. My wife is like a super athlete, and she was like, when she got it after me, she got it from me, she was like, I want to go to the hospital. I can't breathe. And I go, no, budesonide and ivermectin and all that. And she got better in just 4 or 5 days. Me, I kind of ignored it for a week, so it got a lot worse because I'm tough. I'm going to ignore this. And but as soon as I got on the medications, bam. And believe me, folks, with who knows what they're going to pull next.
You know, I've treated patients in their 90s, people on oxygen, people with pacemakers, ICDs, heart failure. These kits are broadly applicable. They're life-saving. They rely on McCullough protocol, the most widely used acute treatment protocol in acute COVID-19. Wellness Company is not stopping there. We have the most...
By the way, it was Rogan did your protocol.
Joe Rogan, Aaron Rodgers, so many did. We had many state lawmakers in Texas use the protocol. Without McCullough protocol, the hospitalizations and deaths in the United States could have been overwhelming. Thank goodness we stepped in with early treatment.
All right. We got about 20 minutes in the next hour, and then you've got to go and do another podcast in Dripping Springs. It's great to have you here. The door's always open. I want to, when we come back from break, run through just a whole bunch of articles and studies just came out last week. Just get your take. You know about the study, what's your view, and then any other tidbits. What else do you want to hit when we come back?
Well, I'd like to talk with you about RFK joining Team Trump.
Well, I was told that by high-level folks, and I told people he'd make the announcement Friday on Tuesday, and announced a few days later he was, and then now his wife's trying to pressure him, and I'm told there's a fight going on. I'm really worried, actually.
Well, you know, RFK has been a leader, the only public figure at a high level that has expressed concerns regarding pandemic response, lessons learned, vaccine safety and efficacy, broadly concerns about the childhood vaccine schedule. There are a lot of voters out there, Alex, who are in the middle. They're independents or they're on the right or left, but the biggest issue in their life has been a pandemic issue, a hospitalization, a job loss, a vaccine injury or disability. And I think RFK is going to attract those voters.
Absolutely. We're going to go to break because I want everybody to hear this. Some stations don't carry the first 5 minutes, so we're going to give you a 5-minute break. We're going to air some very important information coming up, a special report. Pick one of the newest Mound reports. And then we're going to come back right after this break in 5 minutes, and we're going to just drill through all of this. But people need to go now to the website. You need to stockpile, in my view. Very important, onlinehealthnow.com. I mean, if you don't, quite frankly, you're insane. I mean, I've got like a freaking closet full of this stuff. We'll be right back. Well, one of the leading experts and one of the most published doctors out there is Dr. Peter McCullough. He's with us for the rest of this segment. We're going to shift gears into military and global news and how they're openly saying that Iran's going to assassinate Trump with no evidence. Iran says they're not. They already tried to blame the last assassination on him. I predicted they would do that. When they weren't doing it, I'm in their brains. I know their battle plan. This is really bad. Okay, I don't just get up here and say alarmist stuff because I like to hear alarmist stuff. I don't risk my life for nothing. The system is really angry at me over all this, but we're going to continue to tell the truth until we beat these people or until I go down with the ship. But in the end, I believe you will win no matter what happens to me or Dr. Peter McCullough, who's also being persecuted, but he doesn't talk about it either. He just keeps moving forward. Doc with the onlinehealthnow.com. You wanted to, and I'm glad because I was going to raise this anyways, and we'll get back into all the poison shot news, mRNA mass rollouts for cancer, everything else, even though it's killing people in the trials. Your take on RFK Jr. and how seismic this is, and I believe he will endorse Trump today. I was told he would on Tuesday. He was going to do it in L.A., and then he got with Trump, obviously, and he's going to be the surprise guest, we believe. I've not been told that, but they're in the same city. He makes the announcement at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. We'll be covering it. that live feed that's going to be on his X account and everywhere else coming up here in just about 53 minutes from now. And then about 3 hours later, or 2.5 hours later, is the Trump rally beginning. I believe he will be at that during the War Room today with Chase Geiser hosting. Owen's on vacation. We're going to be obviously carrying that rally as well. But Dr. Peter McCullough, your view on this, obviously, I know you're a fan of RFK Jr. for his championing for so long against medical tyranny and so much more. I see this as part of political realignment with Tulsi Gabbard's endorsing Trump, Elon Musk endorsing Trump. This is a big deal.
It is. You know, there is a deep state that people think about with the intelligence agencies and the military, but people don't think about the medical and bioscientific deep state. And it exists. And at the top of this is the Department of Health and Human Services, of which the FDA and CDC report to HHS. We have the National Institutes of Health, which is a big player, UNAID, and numerous government agencies make up this medical bioscientific deep state. And they take care of each other financially, Alex, through grants, through all different types of programs to be administered. Now, if RFK joins the Trump campaign and ultimately is positioned as a cabinet member, Secretary of HHS, in my view, would be the position welcomed by those who are on Team Freedom for medical and bioscientific affairs in the country. The reason being is because most of us are calling for a house cleaning of the FDA, the CDC, and NIH, and the HHS director would be key. RFK is an attorney. Javier Becerra, the current HHS secretary, is an attorney. So he's well educated, schooled on these affairs to take that position.
All right, shifting gears now into the big news. I'm just going to read you these headlines. This is from the NIH out of the UK, the government website. First UK patient receives innovative lung cancer vaccine. And it goes on to say it's mRNA, the investigational mRNA cancer immunotherapy for non-small cell lung cancer known as BNT116. Now, look, I want cures for things, okay? And it's great if you can get humans to sign up for these, but lying and saying it's a vaccine, to me is a fraud. And they're doing all sorts of mRNA testing on humans and animals right now. What are the issues with this?
The issues are that messenger RNA technology has been around since about 1985. In a review article by Lalani and colleagues, governments are millions, if not billions of dollars of investment into this. So is the biotech industry. Messenger RNA technology is, in a sense, like nuclear technology. It cannot be controlled. Once messenger RNA goes in the human body, Alex, it goes everywhere. We don't understand the biodistribution, the pharmacokinetics, cannot turn on and turn off the proteins produced by messenger RNA. And so if a protein is produced to try to combat lung cancer, in my view, it's much safer to give it as a peptide through intravenous infusion or through some other method, as opposed to genetic technology. We don't understand it well enough. We've already seen a crisis from the widespread administration of messenger RNA for SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. I think it's a misadventure. And don't forget, in sick cancer patients, it's going to be hard to tell toxicity from the treatment versus progression of the cancer.
So in layman's terms, they have moved, as Fauci said in 2009 on C-SPAN, that we're going to, quote, blow up the old FDA system. They're doing similar systems worldwide. They're now just directly guinea pigging the population. Netanyahu said last year in an interview with Jordan Peterson, he said, we are just going to test things and see what works on the Israeli people.
You know, it was said by New England Journal of Medicine editor that to just test the COVID vaccines on children. One of the
remember the FDA board member said on video in a meeting, he said, we're just going to test and see what it does.
That's it. But I can tell you the great concern here is that the messenger RNA could reverse transcribe. What I mean by that is the human body can make a mirror image code of it and then insert it into the human genome, insert it into normal cells, make those normal cells become abnormal. So if we treated a lung cancer, maybe years down the line, we could have some other new medical problem because of reverse transcription. It's a dangerous technology. I think it should be shut down.
And you said this, I remember, like 3 years ago, but I've seen studies where they now admit it is doing that.
There is a paper by Marcus Alden and colleagues, Yang D. Marinis, senior author from Malmo, Sweden, clearly showing the center portion of Pfizer reverse transcribes into human DNA in a human hepatoma cell line. If the center 444 base pair amplicon does, probably the entire code does. So what does this mean? Everybody who took Pfizer or Moderna, it's possible, Alex, that their genome, their human genome, at least in a mosaic of cells, has been permanently changed.
Wow, let's move on to the next story. World's first mRNA lung cancer vaccine begins human trials. Now it's time for your 10th COVID shot. Fauci says he's taken 6. He's had, I guess, COVID, was it 4 times now? And they get up and brag about this. I mean, they're now admitting it doesn't work. They've known this forever. What the hell's going on here?
You'd think if they got a cold, they just wouldn't get a test and advertise the failure of the COVID-19 vaccines. An analysis from Cleveland Clinic, Shretha and colleagues shows with each additional COVID shot, there's no protection. In fact, people get more recurrent COVID, just like Fauci and Biden.
It's just, and then they brag about it. Oh, I mean, Hotez gets up all the time. Well, what do you make of Hotez? I'm sure you've seen the clips, but I've seen at least, we put a compilation together early this week, at least 10 prominent spokespersons for the WHO and others saying we want to use troops and NATO to control information, but also physically go after people and punish them. The UK Prime Minister said that as well. What do you make of this?
Dr. Peter Hotez, a professor of medicine at Baylor in Houston. I'm a former professor of medicine. I've published a bit more than he has. I think, quite honestly, he's frankly dangerous. He is calling for using propaganda, and his propaganda tool is anti-science. Anti-science is a propaganda term of which he uses to gain a power dynamic over others. That is, he holds the science, and anybody who disagrees with Hotez is, anti-science.
And he says we're aggressing, we're violent with our info.
Well, what he is aggressive with his propaganda and actually weaponizing this against the population. Essentially what he's saying is anybody who disagrees with him and this government false narrative would actually be hunted down by UN police and other military forces. And
that's what Dr. Ryan, the head of their emergency response, said 3 years ago. It's just insane. Continuing on with these reports, excess deaths in Australia correlated to COVID vaccine uptake. We've got all these other studies. You mentioned it earlier. Major study, COVID shots are sole cause of child heart failure surge. That's what you're an expert on. What's happening?
Well, let's take all-cause mortality first. Dennis Rancourt, epidemiologist out of Montreal, Alessandria from Italy, multiple other reports, a big report in from Japan, all over the world. The COVID-19 vaccines are resulting in excess mortality. People who take the vaccines die sooner than those who don't take the vaccines. And a big mechanism by which they die is cardiovascular disease, cardiac arrest, the development of heart failure, and other catastrophes.
And here's one of those big studies right here, overhead shot for TV viewers. German doctor warns monkeypox is really COVID jab-induced shingles. I've seen a lot of scientists and doctors saying this. What's going on there?
The two diagnoses can be confused. Now, monkeypox is a more pustular rash, not as painful as shingles, smaller little pustules. But I can tell you, because in the Congo, where this is a big deal, only 10% of cases are laboratory confirmed. The rest of it, they're trying to make a clinical diagnosis. So they could misdiagnose shingles as monkeypox or vice versa. We shouldn't use the Congo, one of the poorest countries on earth, as a model for monkeypox epidemiology.
Why is monkeypox so much more prevalent in the Congo? Because it's basically, what do they call that? A genetic sink? There's just it's in the animals. It's in the.
Yeah, it's endemic in monkeys, and actually where the greatest contact is in giant pouch rats. These rats, I guess, are kept in cages and they have to wrestle with the animals. Most of the cases in the Congo, it's on the hands because they're handling the animals. The cases in humans out of Europe and the United States are almost always buttocks, penis, pelvis, and the mouth. Ugh. Because it's in the gay and bisexual community. That's how it's transferred. It's essentially a sexually transmitted disease that most Americans don't need to worry about.
And the head doctor at the White House monkeypox response team is a particularly wild, promiscuous person who promotes unprotected sex.
He is somebody who looks like he would be at risk for monkeypox. Now, we've had just over 1 million people take the monkeypox vaccine in the United States, largely gay and bisexual men. But the key here is not a vaccine, which doesn't last very long and causes myocarditis. It's safe sex practices. And then when sick, the use of tecovirimat. This is a valuable drug, Alex. It's a envelope protein inhibitor. It's very effective. It's available orally and IV. Think about treatment for the illness, not a vaccine.
So if you don't want to get monkeypox, don't have sex with 50 people a month.
It really boils down to some common sense. I don't want anybody in mainstream America to worry about monkeypox. We simply understand it too well.
I was reading these studies where they're having some hundreds of partners a month. How the hell do you do that? It doesn't even sound real. COVID vax causes more heart damage than COVID virus, and brain, blood, immune cancer, reproductive study, reproductive destruction. I mean, there's so many of these studies. What do you make of that?
Open safely, huge study out of the UK, over 1 million individuals. This finally settled the question, Alex. The COVID vaccine causes myocarditis in young people, not the infection. It's a government false narrative. It's been propagated through the American College of Cardiology and other agencies that the infection causes myocarditis. It doesn't. There are no autopsy confirmed cases. In fact, when autopsies are done in COVID-19 illness, the virus does not affect the heart. There are no adjudicated cases using biomarkers, imaging, and MRI, and there are no hospitalizations and deaths attributed to the infection causing myocarditis. Just the opposite. We have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of vaccine myocarditis causing hospitalization and death. And we've published, with Nick Hulsher and myself have published this. Sadly, Alex, the first manifestation of COVID vaccine myocarditis can be a cardiac arrest. They don't even have a...
And that's like Ernest Ramirez Jr. Looking at this, then we see these headlines constantly. When you follow the article, there's no link, there's no proof. It just says COVID's a greater risk of heart problems than the shot, and they just lie.
Essentially, it's a giant medical lie perpetrated by the American College of Cardiology, the CDC, the NIH. This is a false narrative. No confirmed cases by adjudication or autopsy. Right. No hospitalizations and deaths. But the vaccine, I'm a cardiologist, Alex. I am knee deep in people with vaccine myocarditis causing heart failure, heart transplant, and ICD implantation. We're
going to put that clip up front once we archive this. Moving on here, pacemaker patients experience heartbeat irregularities post-COVID and flu shot, we're now learning.
This is important. Remember, the pacemaker not only paces the heart, but it can actually monitor the heart. So it's the best way to get baseline cardiac rhythm information. Take a shot and see what happens afterwards. And
so it's a perfect controlled study, basically.
Exactly. So we've got it. The vaccines do cause heart arrhythmias in some. It's inflammation in the heart, atrial fibrillation, sometimes ventricular arrhythmias.
Here's another one. COVID shots can enlarge and weaken the heart. Another study.
Heart failure can be an outcome of subclinical myocarditis. It's very important for people to realize they may not feel chest pain initially, but then they have the onset of effort intolerance, a pulmonary edema, congestion, and leg swelling. I have cases from Austin, Alex, referred up to my office. It's vaccine myocarditis and heart failure. They need treatment for this. The go-to is McCullough protocol, base spike protein detoxification with supplements available through onlinehealthnow.com.
Onlinehealthnow.com.
And the use of prescription drugs, including colchicine, mandatory, and then heart failure drugs.
I want you to speak more to that at the end here, but when you talk to these patients, and obviously you don't want to scare them or freak them out, but do they volunteer? Hey, I think it's the shot? I mean...
Most people think it's the shot, and Alex, and we measure...
And the science says it is.
And the science says it is. We measure antibodies to the spike protein. This is very important. Just published a risk stratification paper on this in the preprint server, myself and Nick Hulsher, my fellow. And what we've shown is that when the antibodies against the spike protein are low, less than 1,000, very unlikely that the patient is at risk. Once we see arbitrary units greater than 1,000 on the extended range antibody spike protein test, that's where we start to discern risk for those who have had multiple rounds of COVID vaccines. And there probably is a cumulative toxicity. One shot, not too bad. Start adding more, greater risk.
Wow. Doctors raise alarm over COVID vaccine linked to infertility. They admit it's causing menstrual cycle problems. What's going on there?
It's clear. There's been project after project that have demonstrated the vaccines cause menstrual abnormalities and bleeding. The great concern I have is that there can be bleeding in a postmenopausal woman, and basically the reconstitution of periods. Watch out, that could be early endometrial cancer.
And that's the lining of the uterus.
That's right. And you know, we have ample data now suggesting every cancer is increasing worldwide in virtually every organ system, and it's related to COVID-19 vaccines.
Now, I'm glad, Dr. McCullough, that you brought up how to detox, either whether you got COVID in the wild, which you know is a lot less from the studies bad as taking the shots, but if you want to detox from it, you're one of the top research doctors out there, one of the, if not the most published. You have actually developed something, come up with something available at onlinehealthnow.com that you're saying is the go-to here. Spend a few minutes telling us about that anti-spike protein protocol.
It's the base of what we do now in long COVID and vaccine injury syndromes. It's caused because of accumulation of the spike protein from the infection, and in a massive doses from the vaccine, it gets stuck in the human body. We need to assist the body in clearing the spike protein. We have several years of observation, multiple peer-reviewed publications on this, very good support for doing this. It's nattokinase, which is a natural enzyme derived from the fermentation of soy. Japanese discovered it. Bromelain, a family of enzymes derived from the stems of pineapple. And then lastly, curcumin, derived from turmeric and Indian spice. These are all in capsule format. We give them in combination in between meals, and we're using accelerating doses. People are doing this across the world right now, Alex.
So you build up.
And we build up. Now listen, the initial starting doses were 2,000 units twice a day of natto. We're now going to 4,000 twice a day. Dr. Jordan Vaughn, biggest vaccine blood clot center in the United States in Birmingham, Alabama, using now 8,000 twice a day, or 16,000 units. Bromelain, we are doubling, if not quadrupling the doses. And curcumin. Now the caveat is bleeding. These are forms of blood thinners. So watch out for bleeding if one's prone for bleeding. We do give them in addition to blood thinners, and we have found sometimes it's the only way to dissolve the blood clots. When people get large vaccine blood clots, the blood thinners just hold it steady. They don't dissolve them. We actually have to give thrombolytic enzymes. That's McCullough protocol based spike protein detoxification.
And people can find out all the details of that at onlinehealthnow.com.
That's the go-to place. The wellness company provides, really the leading quality and the leading formulation. So the spike formulation has not only nattokinase, but 5 minor ingredients. We combine that with the curcumin and the bromelain for what we think is the ultimate spike detox trio. Onlinehealthnow.com.
All right, we're going to go out to break here in a moment, and Dr. Peter McCullough is going to leave us. We're going to shift gears into international news, military news, preparedness, and just how crazy the economy is. We're going to play a clip going out, though. Former Democrat Governor Rod Blagojevich explains exactly what the current Democrat Party represents. It's a 2-minute clip. We'll go to it in 1 minute. Doctor, you've got to get in the studio more often. You're up in Dallas, but anytime you want to come on remote, anytime something's breaking, you just call us. We'll get you on, because every time you come on, we don't just reach them. Let's be conservative, 10 million a day that see the main show one way or another. We're on a lot of radio stations, but then your videos always get millions of views on X, on Real Alex Jones. They get cut up everywhere. I can't even track it. You're having a big effect here. We need you.
Thank you.
And you told me the wellness company gets the biggest response coming on here, so we need you more, man. You're the top guy.
Let's make it happen.
All right, brother. Onlinehealthnow.com. Go there, and you get these pre-packs. Get ready. Don't play around, and it keeps us on air. It's a win-win. You are insane in this environment if you're not backed up and you're not prepared and you're not ready. And I'm always telling you about turmeric, how good it is. We got great turmeric, but this has got everything over here. Go now to onlinehealthnow.com. We're going to go to break and come back and hit all the news and some really interesting things coming up. Doc, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.